Hello, Miami. This is 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will, and joining me today is a very familiar face, right? Very familiar face. And he is the face of WQAM, as he is the producer of the Hawkman and Crowder show. He is the host of Heat Pregame, okay? And he's also the lead producer for the Miami Dolphins as well, radio programming, during all the games as well. So, Mr. Alejandro Solana, is there anything I missed? Because usually I miss one thing.
Yeah, so you gave me an extra title, actually. So let's go. When I talk with you, I give you the behind the scenes of the radio industry.
Yeah.
Let's peel back the curtain. So the Dolphins are no longer with WQAM. So
that's right. That's true.
Because of my contractual obligations with Odyssey, which is the parent company of WQAM, I was given the boot by the Miami Dolphins. It's okay. So I actually don't produce their radio broadcast anymore, but we do a pregame show. Here we go. There
we go.
I don't turn down a check, bro. I don't turn down a check. So we do a pregame show for those of you who still, are listening to sports radio, or you're on YouTube and Twitch. I know your followers obviously are on YouTube. We do a pregame show. Me, Brandon Tobin from WQAM, which a lot of South Florida sports fans know of, and Omar Kelly as well, who covers the Dolphins for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. We do a pregame show 4 hours leading into every Dolphins game on WQAM. So I'm still involved, a little bit with Dolphins coverage here and there. But yeah, I don't travel with the team anymore, which sucks. I love doing that, but unfortunately, because they went to our competitor, my contract didn't allow me to go over to the dark side. So yeah, no more radio Dolphins producing for me.
Yeah, I forgot because I watch the Dolphins on TV, and when I'm on the road, before the games, because I try to make it home games, I listen to you and Omar and Brandon. Right. So that's why I kind of had a bit of a flashback, a brain fart when it came to last season. But yeah, man, hey, I gave you an extra time, but you're still kind of involved with the Dolphins. So I wasn't off by too much.
A little bit, just not officially with the team, but
yeah. Radio-wise, you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we still do the pregame show. Obviously, WQAM is kind of like the only sports radio station in South Florida now. So, yeah, man, we still talk Dolphins, and it's just not officially syndicated with the organization anymore.
Okay. Absolutely, but you definitely are working with the Heat. We definitely are.
Yeah. I do the pregame, the halftime, and the postgame with the Miami Heat radio network. So that's been a pretty. This is my second year doing it. It's been badass, man. I get to sit next to Jax every home game. Living the dream, bro. Like I grew up listening to Sedano and Zaslow, who was doing it prior to me, and that was always something that I wanted to do. And I kind of looked at what I wanted to do in sports radio. And to have that opportunity now every night, every home game I'm there, every road game back at the studio, doing pregame, halftime, postgame for the Heat. It's been awesome, man. Really love it.
And Jax is a legend because I think he's been doing sports in general since I was in middle school. So that's it's been a while for him, man. So I'm very happy to hear him on television.
Yeah, he is the legend when it comes to the Heat. So he's the best, man. Working with him has been. It's been a damn dream, really. It's been awesome.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And it's been a pretty interesting season as well. I mean, the Heat started out at 1-4. They're currently 10-8, but they had a magnificent 7-game winning streak where I would say they played some really, really, really dominant basketball. And we really saw, a lot of players step up and a lot of, a synergy amongst the team. It was really cool to see. So one thing I wanted to ask you is that from starting 1-4, Tyler Herro was a part of the first couple wins and he got hurt and he's still out. What mainly worked for the Heat during that 7-game win streak?
Yeah, it's weird because last year the Heat go on this improbable playoff run all the way to the finals, and it was without Tyler Herro, right? He gets hurt in game 1 of the Milwaukee series. And this year they're 1-4 despite Tyler having the best start to his particular career. And he was playing outstanding basketball. He was leading the team in scoring. And they were 1-4, right? It didn't translate to victories. And then he goes down and they go on this 7-game win streak. I know he was a part of the first couple. And they looked really good, right? Like the Heat looked
Yeah.
really, really good. So I know a lot of people are trying to push that narrative of this team's better without Tyler. He should be coming off the bench. And I don't know, you know, how what to make of that, because it is hard to argue just facts, substantial evidence on paper, right? The Heat seem to play better and win more games when Tyler Hero is not in the starting lineup. But I would, the way I would counter that, I would say, hey, he's earned a starting spot on this team. It's not like he was just gifted it because the front office decided to pay him a lot of money. The fact is, he got that contract because he deserved it, and I believe that, and I believe he earned a starting spot on this team. And when he does return from injury, I expect him to regain that starting spot. Even though, good luck to Coach Spo having to look Duncan Robinson in the eye and be like, "Hey, you're back on the pine," with how great he's been playing. So it's going to be difficult. But what we learned from this 7-game win streak is that, first of all, the idea that the Heat are kind of just going to coast through the regular season like they did last year because, hey, regular season doesn't matter, they proved that to us, is kind of BS. I think the Miami Heat still do take the regular season serious, even though Jimmy's going to miss games as he's been missing right now. And second, Coach Spoelstra said something at training camp where he mentioned that the two biggest storylines from training camp were, one, Kyle Lowry day one saying, "I expect to be a starter," and everybody kind of made that a story, and I didn't understand why, because he's the only true point guard on the roster, and he was going to start. I didn't think there was any other question, so I never understood why that was such a big deal. And the second big storyline out of training camp was when he said that this roster was deeper than last year's roster that ended up in the NBA Finals. And I think a lot of people were like, "What the hell is this guy talking about? They lost two starters and Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. How could this roster be deeper?" And over that 7-game win streak, and even beyond it now, right? Even considering they lost to the Bucks and they've lost 3 straight, I think you've seen a really good glimpse of why Coach Spo, one, had the foresight of this roster being deeper and perhaps more complete, and two, why they've played like a better regular season team through the first 18 games of this season than they did all of last year. And it's because they are deeper. The steps Jaime has taken, I know we're going to talk about him.
Mhm.
Caleb Martin now returning. You've seen it over the past 2 games, despite those being losses to Brooklyn and Milwaukee, what he can bring. And I think the addition of Josh Richardson, it's really starting to mold into what they had imagined it would be when he returned here for his second stint. Bam Adebayo is taking that next step in progression in his offensive game. I think you're seeing it where this isn't just a team that is going to coast through the regular season. They're looking to build on what they did last year. Did they close the gap to be better than the Nuggets and the Celtics or the Bucks this year? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But this team is a very well-rounded basketball team.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I have to say one thing. Hawk must be very happy. Well, he is very happy because I hear you every day on the radio. Duncan Robinson has really balled. I mean, he has
Amazing.
really, really taken a huge step in his game. Not only being not just a one-trick pony that just shoots threes, but creating his own shot, driving into the lane. And not only that, he's actually improved on defense as well. I don't think he's a defensive liability anymore for this team, as we've seen, throughout the progression of the season. Any changes to the way he's approaching the game, or is it just he just needed to develop a little bit more as the years went along?
Yeah, I definitely think there's changes to his approach overall. Did he have to develop more overall as a player? For sure. And I think you're seeing the fruits of that labor kind of come to fruition, where he's no longer just a guy who's running out on the perimeter and either A, trying to be a catch and shoot 3-pointer, or using those dribble handoffs from Bam, which is really the only action that he was great in going back to the bubble, right? It's Bam Adebayo at the top of the key, being one of your primary ball handlers or primary passers as a big, and it was Duncan just running around screens, kind of like how the Warriors use Steph and Clay
Yeah.
off the ball, right? Where Draymond stands at the top of the key near the free throw line, maybe one of the elbows, and those two off the ball, because I'm not comparing Duncan to Steph or Clay. Let me make, but just off the ball, those two are just running around screens trying to get open, right? And I think that's what Duncan was. And last year and even the year prior to that, you saw Coach Spo just go away from Duncan Robinson because he was a turnstile on the defensive end.
Yeah.
Anytime he was out there on the defensive end, it seems like the officials were never giving him the benefit of the doubt. And if there was ever even minor contact, he was getting picked on the defensive end, and the officials were going to call him for a foul. He was just the mismatch constantly, and he got played off the floor. But I think obviously due to Tyler Hero's injury last season, the Heat needed that spark. They needed somebody to provide some sort of offense. And he showed you a glimpse of what he had been working on, which is somebody who now can hold their own. I'm not saying, he's Tony Allen from a couple of years ago, or I don't even know why I said Tony Allen, but he's not Bam Adebayo or Jimmy Butler on the defensive end. We know that. He still has his limitations, but he can hold his own. And we've seen it this season where he's being called for a lot less fouls. He's moving his feet more. And he's not just automatic mismatch. Teams can't just single him out every single offensive possession on the opponent's side and go at him and essentially force Spo to take him off the floor. That's not Duncan Robinson anymore. And anybody who still thinks that's Duncan Robinson, you're just not watching the games. He's been a very good to solid defender this season. It's a testament to his work ethic. It's a testament to the fact that this guy was probably at the lowest point of his career over the last 2 years, not having a role despite being, a guy who's making a lot of money. We all know what that contract looks like. At one point, he was called the worst contract in the NBA and still just focusing on getting better and improving his craft. And he's done it. And then on the offensive side of the ball, he is somebody now who can put the ball on the floor. Yesterday, he took Giannis. He took Wemby a couple weeks ago as well when the Heat played the Spurs. And, we don't want him to be AI, but just the fact that he's added that element to his game where he doesn't have to be rolling off screens off the ball anymore. He can have the ball in his hands, high right side, high left side, allow Bam to come set a screen, and he can put the ball on the floor with his left or right hand. He's developed that midi game as well a little bit. And off the ball, it's not just on the perimeter anymore. He's using the baselines to cut. He's using most of that mid-range to cut as well. He's developed a very good sense of when to either be on the perimeter or when to cut towards the basket. And that's why you've seen a lot of points from Duncan Robinson, no longer just on the perimeter. We know that's his game, but also in the mid-range and in the restricted area, which was never even a thought with Duncan when he was at his peak going into the season he got paid in the bubble, right? It was all just 3-pointers from him.
I want to follow up a little bit what you just said before we talk about the play-in series, since we're mentioning Duncan Robinson and we talk about Tyler Hero as well. Tyler Hero was averaging over 22 points before he got injured. Tyler Hero did win a couple of years ago, Sixth Man of the Year. One of the things that we learn in sports is that you never really stop with the hot hand unless it gets cold. But the way the Heat are playing right now, if you're Spo, let's say you're Alejandro Solana, you're Spo, wouldn't you want Tyler to come off the bench just during at least during a short term during the season? And I'm only saying this because Tyler Hero, I think, is a better ball handler than I would say Duncan Robinson. So I think he could run an offense with a second unit that maybe Duncan can.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, when he does return from injury, we saw he was practicing the other day, not full practice, just kind of putting up some shots. When he rolled that ankle in Memphis, he kind of knew that was going to be, he said it, a 3-4 week thing. So we're probably looking at a Hero return over the next 2 or 3 weeks. He's not going to start immediately, right? Like there's going to be that adjustment period where he's going to have to reacclimate himself to this team, because the team he was playing with a month ago at the start of the season looks a lot different than it does right now, with Caleb and Jaime being another ball handler as well that the Heat are using in that second unit. I agree from the sense that, when Jimmy and Bam go to the bench and that second unit comes in, the Heat aren't deep at point guard, right? You have Jay Rich, who can be a ball handler. We've seen Jaime kind of at times when Jimmy's off the floor and Kyle's off the floor be somebody that you can maybe rely on as an extra ball handler. And he's only growing as his skill set as well. And Tyler could be that guy who could really manage the second unit. But I think he can still be that guy even as a starter, because if you look at the rotation Spo was using early on, prior to Tyler's injury, Jimmy and Bam would come off the floor in that first quarter, and it was Tyler staying on the floor with that second unit who was checking in. So he can still lead the second unit even as a starter. So I find it hard to envision a situation where Coach Spoelstra is benching him, not benching him, but making him the sixth man. If it ends up in the long term where the numbers are, it's just evident that he has to come off the bench because this team functions better with him coming off the bench. That's why Eric Spoelstra, one, gets paid the big bucks, and two, has earned the reputation to make that type of move where he puts a player who makes as much money as Tyler does and has the reputation Tyler does here in South Florida, which is, whether people want to believe it or not, a franchise player.
Yeah.
We know what Pat Riley said in the offseason, that he wasn't shopping Hero. Do any of us believe that? No. Could he have had Damian Lillard if he was going to give up Hero? I think he would have done it. That's not a source. I'm not telling you that I talked with Pat Riley. I just believe if it would have resulted in Hero being here, they would have found a way, even if it meant trading Tyler Hero. But everything the Heat have told us is that they value him like a franchise player. They believe they have a big three in Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler. So he's going to be a starter unless the situation comes where it's just so evident that they have a chance to win a title and it's with him coming off the bench. I don't envision that happening. I think he's going to be a starter, and I think he is going to play a lot of minutes with the second unit. And we all know what matters most is who finishes games. Mm-hmm. And if Tyler defensively in these late game situations, which the Heat haven't been great in this season, can't hold his own on defense, well, we're going to be in a situation where they're going to opt for Jaime, or they're going to opt for Caleb, or they're going to opt for Jay Rich on the floor rather than Hero.
Yeah. No, I totally absolutely agree. And thank you for, pretty much bringing that, unpacking that, because that's something that's been argued and debated as far as I've had friends that say that we should trade Tyler Hero, since we have Jaime. And I'm like, well, no.
And I see, and again, that's why I had brought it up earlier, where I see there was a stat earlier this year. I don't have it in front of me, and I don't remember the exact numbers. So, YouTubers, don't be upset if I don't get this perfect. But there was a stat where when Tyler Hero scored 20 or more points, the Miami Heat had a below 500 record. And when he didn't score 20 or more points, the Heat had a above 500 record. So, basically you extrapolate that and you say, just because he's scoring doesn't mean it's positively affecting the Heat team, right? It's not resulting in wins just because he's scoring. I think a lot of factors go into those numbers. I think context matters, but bottom line, the argument I would use against Tyler being traded is look at what has really plagued the Heat this season outside of injury, because injuries have really just gotten in the way of this season already, even though they're 10-8 and we're all pretty happy with them being 10-8. It's been their fourth quarter inefficiencies, inability to score against the Bucks, against the Knicks. They blew a 17-point fourth quarter lead. Go back to that first game against Detroit, couldn't score a damn basket, and they won by one. They squeaked that one out. The Heat in the fourth quarter this season have been really bad, easily their worst quarter in terms of efficiency, offensive and defensive rating, and their net rating as well. You're telling me Tyler can't help with the scoring issues late in games? We know he's clutch. We know he has ice in his veins. There's a reason why that meme of him in the bubble where he's kind of grinning his teeth went viral, because the dude feels like he can elevate his game in those moments. I believe he can help them, especially with their offensive struggles late in games. Look at that Knicks loss, man. Like, they didn't score a bucket. They didn't score a field goal the final 3 minutes and 50 seconds of the game. A lot of it you credit to the New York Knicks, but I also think a lot of it is the Miami Heat got away from what was working for them, and you could use a bucket getter in those moments when your offense stalls, when nothing seems to be working, when Jimmy and Bam can't get to their spots, when teams are taking away Bam's fadeaway jumper that's been money for him, when teams aren't allowing Jimmy to get to his spots to get to the free throw line, you add that extra player, that dynamic offensive player in Tyler, who can get to his spot, who can get a bucket going ISO on one-on-one against pretty much anybody in the league. How do you have that player and just say, oh, trade him? I think the only way this team would consider trading Tyler Hero is if it was for a whale. Damian Lillard
Yeah.
was a perfect example. They're not trading. I've seen the Zach LaVine stuff. Like, they're not trading Tyler Hero and picks for Zach LaVine. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't take them from where they are now, which is title contender, to above that, which is a favorite to win the NBA title, right? Like, Zach LaVine doesn't close the gap between beating the Nuggets last year and not beating the Nuggets. And I don't see why you would just trade Tyler just to trade Tyler. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And Tyler, one thing you can't deny about Tyler Hero, he knows how to create his own shots. So that's one thing. He's a great shot creator. So that's one thing that you have to worry about Tyler. Whether it's driving in the lane, whether it's shooting up, popping a three, or shooting from the elbow, or just bouncing one off the backboard, or even setting up his teammates as well into open looks, because he's such a good shot creator. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the team is much better in the fourth quarter, especially with a guy like Tyler Hero, who teams have to plan for and defend, because the fact that he doesn't care, he will shoot the three, and he could nail it.
Yeah, and look, like, they're gonna have to figure out, one, how to help him on the defensive end, because offenses are going to hump for that mismatch. Like, that's going to happen. There's no doubt about it. And that's up to Coach Spo to figure out the right rotation late in games to maximize having Jimmy, Tyler, and Bam on the floor, and whoever else is going to be on the floor with them. They need minutes, though. They need to log those minutes together to figure that out. And the fact that Jimmy continues to miss games, Bam hasn't been entirely healthy either, dealing with that hip injury. And Tyler's been out now all but the first 5 or 6 games or whatever it was. Like, that's a big issue here. But again, like, just going back to what you said, where some of your buddies are saying trade Tyler Hero, and like, if you're a Heat fan and you feel that way, just know that you're not going to get that wish unless it's for a top 10 player in the NBA. And I don't think anybody right now in the present NBA, as we're talking right now on a Sunday night, November 29th, I don't see any situation where there is somebody of that caliber available for trade. So Tyler Hero is going to be on this roster.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Now, interesting aspect of the season is the whole play-in thing. All right, the whole play-in tournament and so on. You kind of like the idea of the play-in tournament.
You mean the in-season tournament that's going on right now?
The in-season tournament. Yeah, there we go. The in-season tournament. Thank you. The play-in is the playoffs. The in-season tournament, and no, you like the idea. I know you're a soccer guy. I know it happens quite a bit in soccer. Hockman, not a big fan. Your buddy Tobin makes fun of it all the time, and he hopes that he was actually, I think, happy that he got bounced by Milwaukee, so I could take a week off, as well. For my listeners that may not be following the tournament yet because they're immersed in football, how exactly is this tournament working? Like, basically, what is the structure? What's the structure?
Right. So first of all, Tobin's take that he was hoping they'd get bounced out of group play so that they would have a week off. It makes no sense, because the Heat still are going to play 2 games. Those games have been scheduled. Okay. Wednesday and Friday of next week. They're going to play 2 games regardless. They're just going to be regular season games. Basically, group play. There was 5 teams in each group, several groups on each side of the conference, and the top team of each group, after they would play Tuesdays and Fridays, were group play games, in-season tournament games, cup games in the NBA over the past month. Those Tuesday and Friday games were only in-season tournament games, and they would count towards overall record. And there was point differential, which ended up keeping the Miami Heat out of the knockout rounds. And you would play each team in your group at least once, and the top team of each group would end up coming out into the knockout rounds. And now we know on the east side, it was the Indiana Pacers, it was the Milwaukee Bucks, it was the Boston Celtics, and the caveat, 1 wild card team. So the best second place team on each side of the conference. So 1 wild card team from the West, 1 wild card team from the East. Those were your 4 teams that would advance out of the group stage, which is what we have now. The Bucks are going to play the Knicks December 4th, and the Pacers are going to play the Celtics, I believe, December 5th. And that's the quarterfinal. And there's 4 teams on the West side, the Lakers, I think the Mavericks, I don't remember off the top of my head on the West. And after the quarterfinal, the two teams that advance on each side of the conference go into the semifinal. The semifinal and the final will be played in Las Vegas. And that essentially is how this is being extrapolated for the in-season tournament. I love it. I think it's a great idea. I think in 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years, people are going to really be looking forward to the in-season tournament. I totally understand it's a little complicated. Even me explaining it, I got lost in thought a little bit. But I get it. But it was the first year, and I never understood the criticism because everybody's biggest complaint about the NBA, their biggest complaint about the NBA, maybe two things, right? One is that players take games off, which is true. That and I think the NBA has done a good job of trying to address that, putting in some rules that don't allow teams to just sit out all-stars, and guys have to play X amount of games if they want to end up, being in the end of season accolades, which result in money for them, right? Like how many guys have written in their contract that they get X bonus because they're first team all pro or second team all NBA or first team all defense. So guys want to be eligible for those things. Well, guess what? You have to play games. You can't sit out games if you want to be eligible for those accolades. And the second biggest complaint in the NBA was that nobody cares about the regular season until after the Super Bowl, right? Nobody cares about the regular season until after the Super Bowl. After Christmas, nobody cares about it. Well, this solved that problem. There's meaningful games, and whether you want to say that the NBA Cup is meaningful or not, fine. But there's going to be a quarterfinal, a semifinal, and a championship game for regular season games in the NBA, and players get $500,000 on the winning side. And, maybe for a guy like LeBron, that's nothing because he makes more than $500K per game. But the guy at the end of the bench on the Miami Heat, the Jaime Jaquez's or the Thomas Bryant's, like for those guys, $500,000 is a lot of money. So they're incentivized to try to win those games. It ups competition in the regular season, and it gives you another reason to watch regular season basketball prior to the Super Bowl or prior to Christmas. So I love the idea. I really think 3-4 years from now, people are going to be 100% bought into this. They have to fix the court situation because some of the courts were wacky. I agree. But it is cool knowing that when you flip to a game, just based on what the court looks like, is this a regular season game or an in-season tournament game? And yeah, man, this is what they do in soccer, and it's wildly successful. The most popular competition in sports outside of the World Cup is the Champions League. And this is how the Champions League functions. It's a perfect device to get eyeballs to watch games. And the NBA, in my opinion, nailed it with this.
Okay. Yeah, people don't like change too much, and I think that it's just that people just have to get used to it, and then once they figure out how it works, they'll be perfectly fine. But I'll be honest with you, I really never, ever want to see the court in Boston again. That was the ugliest NBA court I have ever seen. I thought basically someone threw up, and they made the court for Boston. Like it was just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, and listen, I don't like anything that has to do with Boston. So anytime I think of the Celtics, I want to throw up. I'm with you though. Like they have to figure out a better mechanism that is more appealing, more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the eyeballs on TV. Even the Heat court, like I liked it. It was cool, the scarlet with the gray or whatever. But I can see why on TV it gets a little tough to watch. But just the idea that like their thought process was, when you turn on that game, just based on the different court, right, and the eye poppingness, I don't know if that's a word, of the court, it's a cup game. So I like the idea. Yeah. Execution probably needs to be perfected a bit by the NBA. But yeah, the court was some of the courts were, settle down, Adam Silver. You could just put a big trophy in the middle of the court, in-season tournament graphics, and I think it would accomplish the same goal.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even the Heat, they usually do well with their aesthetics. That court the other day was like, ugh. And it wasn't even that bad because again, that Boston, to me, it was like a booger fest. That court in Boston, it was just nasty.
There were some weird ones. Utah had a weird one. Yeah. Some of the courts were abysmal. I'm with you on there. Like, but hey, it's the first year, right? They've got to figure it out. But overall, I think it was a success. The other night, you had on Tuesday where the Heat end up losing to the Bucks. you had teams competing to the very end, right? Even though it was blowout, teams were trying to run up the score because point differential mattered,
Yes.
and you had a lot of fights in games. Or I shouldn't say fight. It's never a fight in the NBA other than Draymond locking up Rudy Gobert. But like you had a lot of controversies in some of these games with the competition ramping up. That's what I thought. That's what people wanted to see. Like I what is it? Do you want to see guys actually care about regular season games? Because that's always a criticism. Oh, they don't care about regular season, only the playoffs. And that was only made worse by the Heat being a play-in team going to the NBA Finals. So, like, the NBA had to have some sort of response to that. They tried to make these games matter, and I think they accomplished it. I just think, people are used to what they're used to. Like you said, they don't like change, and their first reaction is to say, oh, that sucks. That's stupid. That's a dumb idea. It's actually not. It's a good idea. And there's a recipe for success already. This isn't Adam Silver in the lab concocting, ideas. Like, this is successful on the biggest stage on a sport 50 times bigger in European soccer. They just adopted that model. So I like the people who hate on it, fine, Hawk, go ahead, hate on it. But it's going to be a good idea. And you're telling me semifinal and final in Las Vegas, people aren't going to be watching that? Hell yeah, people are going to be watching that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, you'll just get used to it. Everybody get used to it and so on. I don't have an issue with it as long as it's organized. That's just my thing, as well. And it's done pretty well and it looks pretty good. And the basketball's been great. Like despite the loss to Milwaukee, that was a really good game. I was thoroughly impressed, with the way that he played. Now speaking about especially the Heat, about Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo. Okay, one of the biggest criticisms that people had about Bam is that Bam is not aggressive enough and he doesn't score enough. He has wrecked that narrative this year. All right, I mean, wrecked it. He is having a career year, averaging 23.3 points per game. You can see in the graphics, 10.3 rebounds, a little over a steal a game, 4 assists, and over a block a game. He has been absolutely sensational. Did you expect this Bam to come out in the regular season?
Yeah, it's a tough question. Like, did I expect Bam to be great? Yes. Did I expect Bam to be a force? Yes, because he is. Did I expect them to put up these offensive numbers this consistently? No. I would have to honestly no. But maybe we shouldn't be surprised, right? Since he's entered the league, what was that, 2018 or 2017, whenever his rookie season was, he's only gotten better every single year. We know defensively, he's the best defender in the NBA, and the NBA doesn't want to give him the Defensive Player of the Year award because it's a stupid award anyways, the way that they decide on it. But offensively, like, he's grown his game every year. And you're right, the biggest indictment on Bam was that at times, remember Robert Williams, when the Heat were the number 1 overall seed in 2021 or in 2022, Jimmy misses in Game 7 and the Heat end up losing that series. But in that series, Bam defensively was great. What was the biggest criticism of him was that Robert Williams III locked him up and kept him out of the paint and kept him from being a factor on the offensive end. And I think over 2 years now, he's responded by just improving his jumper. Bam is hitting fadeaway jumpers with centers, Defensive Player of the Year award winners, Jaren Jackson Jr., in his mouth, and he's knocking them down high right side, high left side, elbow on the left, on the right, free throw line jumper, dunker spot jumper, doesn't matter. Fadeaway, you feel like it's going in every single time. This dude put up 31, 10, and 5 against Brook Lopez and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah. Like, do you know how difficult it is for a center to put up 31 points, and he was doing it inside and out? He's improved every facet of his game offensively. He's playing with more force, with more intent every time he has the ball. And when Jimmy's out, you need somebody to step up the scoring. And he's been the guy. With Tyler out, he's been the guy game in and game out. Like, outside of the 3-point shot, there isn't a shot he can't hit right now when the ball is in his hands, and he's doing it at every level. It's been awesome. Like you said, it's been badass. It's been really cool to see Bam kind of take that next evolution of his game on the offensive end.
Yeah, he always had a pretty jump shot. It just didn't go in. that was or it was inconsistent. I'm not gonna say it
And
didn't go in. It was
yeah, and he was
inconsistent.
scared. He was scared to take it. Like
Yeah.
teams would leave him open, but you can't leave him open anymore because he's knocking it down really efficiently. So, yeah, you always knew that he had it. He just wasn't able to knock it down, and he didn't have confidence in it. But the lack of confidence is totally gone. Like yesterday, he's open. He's taking the jumper every time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he should because he's really, like I said, he's really proven that he can hit that shot now. Again, stretches out the floor, becomes a threat, pulls a guy like Brook Lopez out from the paint, makes him a lot more efficient, not just as a defensive player, but also as an offensive player. Makes him a threat as well throughout the game. Another guy that's caught people by surprise is the UCLA rookie Jaime Jaquez Jr., known as Triple J. Sorry, Triple J. His numbers don't look oh wow like so gaudy, but he's so efficient, Alejandro. Like so efficient when he's out there, and he's so good with his selections of when to rebound, when to pass, when to shoot, when not to shoot, when to drive. 11.3 points per game, a little almost 5 rebounds a game, a little over a steal a game, 2.6 assists, and under a block a game. This kid as of right now, I think is the steal of the draft.
Oh, for sure. Like, thank you, Joe Cronin.
Yeah.
If there's one consolation prize for us not getting Damian Lillard, it's the fact that we get to watch Jaime Jaquez Jr. every night. It's gonna sound like I'm just being a Heat homer because I just hyped up Bam the way I did and everything we talked about. But I mean it with Jaime. Like after every game, I'm sitting there post game show, do it with Tommy Tig from the Heat Radio Network, Jax, and we're sitting there. We're like, wow, every game with Jaime, it's been that reaction where you're like, how the hell is this kid so good? Doesn't look like a damn rookie. You're right. Like the big thing that he wasn't able to do early this season, and he dealt with injury, so it took him a couple games to kind of really, catch his footing and get adjusted. But the biggest thing was he couldn't hit threes. Right? There was that game. I don't remember who the Heat were playing, but he couldn't knock down a three. He took like 7 3-pointers in the first quarter, and the team was just letting him shoot him. I don't remember if it was Milwaukee or who they were playing, but he's been hitting those consistently now as well. Yeah. I think his 3-point percentage is already up above 35%, maybe close to 40 on the season already.
Last I checked, on the road, he was at 40 plus. On the road, he actually shoots his threes better on the road than he was shooting them at home, which is quite interesting. So, yeah, I do think he's like at 33 if I had to think of a ballpark number, because he was at 31 overall in the season before I looked at the numbers.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's hitting those efficiently now. And then, I mentioned earlier him being that extra ball handler. He does have that in him. I'm not saying he's, Allen Iverson, but he's somebody that the Heat can run sets through and feel confident that the play that they're running is going to be executed with him at the helm. He can play in the pick and roll whenever it's set by a big. And it just, tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like he's always open, right? Yeah. Underneath the rim. Last night against the Bucks, same thing, where he's catching underneath the rim wide open every time. He understands spacing very well. He understands movement off the ball very well. He knows when to cut, when not to cut. There's obviously still parts of his game that I think are a little bit raw, but that's normal with a rookie. But he doesn't look inexperienced out there. He looks like a 4-5 year veteran in the league. It's crazy. I saw today JJ Redick on his podcast was saying that outside of Victor Wembanyama and what's this guy's name from Oklahoma City, Chet Holmgren, that Jaime Jaquez Jr. is easily the best rookie in the NBA. So third best rookie right now through 18 or 19 games this season. That's effing high praise from somebody with such understanding of the game as JJ Redick. He's caught the league by storm. And again, every game he seems to be getting better. How many times has Eric Spoelstra played a rookie to close out games on that 4-game road trip that the Heat won during that 7-game stretch, right? The first 4, right before they beat Brooklyn at home. It was like Memphis, Atlanta, and I don't remember what the other 2 games were. He played in all 4 of those fourth quarters, the entire fourth quarter. All 4 games, he played all 12 minutes of each fourth quarter. When the hell do the Miami Heat rely on rookies that much. Maybe going back to D Wade.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember another rookie who had that type of impact this early on in the season. So it goes to show you how they feel about Jaime. And you're without Haywood Highsmith early on this year. You're without Jimmy and Bam for a couple games. You're without Caleb Martin for most of the season. And Jaime stepped in, man, and they gave him minutes, and he ran away with it. So I love that kid. Like I love Felipe Jota, man. I'm a huge fan, and I'm looking forward to the progression throughout the season.
Yeah, so am I. I completely am looking forward to it as well. I'm looking forward to seeing, how the team progresses, especially, as the season progresses as well, especially after Christmas, when things really get to heat up. Alejandro, thank you so much. I promise I'll get you out early. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're a busy guy. We're the hardest working guys on radio, if not the hardest working guy on radio as well. So I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna go over it again. If you want to hear Alejandro, okay, you can listen to him on Hawkman and Crowder every single day actually Monday through Friday on WQAM from 2 to 6. You can listen to him as the host, right, of Heat pregame, halftime, and postgame as well. And also you can listen to him, during Dolphins pregame with Omar Kelly and Brandon Tobin as well. Did I miss anything?
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Yes!
That's perfect right there.
First time. All right. Thank you very much, guys. All right. If you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to 5 Sports Now. Once again, everybody stay safe. God bless. See you soon. If you want to hear this version in audio, all right, the link on Spotify will be at the bottom of the description section. Have a great evening, guys. God bless. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you once again, Alejandro.
Absolutely, man.